No more talks with Iran? Well, that's what Iran says. And of course, that is not what President Donald John Trump says. Welcome to another episode of TK2 here on the Uniquely Unqualified channel on YouTube. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you so much to those of you that have already done so. So today is Monday, June 1st, 2026. I woke up with some news that Iran has announced that they do not want to communicate or pursue talks with the United States of America any further. And of course, there are two sides to the story that don't jive. So just going into a little bit of detail here, what do we got going on? So as of this morning, June 1, 2026, Iran stops communications with U.S. Between mediators because of Israel's action in Lebanon against Hezbollah. The main point of concern and problem that we have in this Iran thing is Israel and their actions. First, drawing us into this shit, and now, Netanyahu is on his warpath. Very Hitlerian, as it would seem. Very Napoleonic, as one could say. So, even though Iran comes out and says we're not dealing with this anymore, we're not talking with the United States of America. Mind you, we've never been speaking. The United States of American government has never been speaking directly to the Iranian government. Again, Iran has three forms of government, three branches, three governments, three independently operating governments that's why Donald Trump says, I can't tell you who we're negotiating with because they'll kill him. And by they, he means Israel. And then it's who the hell we negotiate with? We don't know. So you've got the supreme leader, the Ayatollah, right? That's one. And then that guy has complete say over all. He's the end all be all of this. Then there's number two. Number two is the IRGC, which moves in lockstep with whatever the fuck the Ayatollah says. And then number three is the actual elected official government, where there is a president that presides over a position. Means nothing. He's a cleric. He's an administrative guy. He makes sure that the budget's done, the roads are clean, and people get arrested. That's what his job is. He has no negotiating power on an international scale. He has no power. Nobody in the elected official political party or government wing of the government in Iran has no authority to make a peace deal or anything with the United States of America or Israel. Now, we've been having this 2-week ceasefire for 8 weeks now, and Israel seems to be the ones that are causing all the problems. Specifically in Lebanon, remember the Iran initially, the very first thing. So Donald Trump announces a ceasefire. The next thing you know is the Israelis are throwing frickin' rockets into southern Lebanon, and then Iran says, whoa, Lebanon was part of the deal. That's part of the deal. And then everybody said, Israel and America say, nuh-uh, but then all the negotiating mediators say, yeah-huh. And so, we've said this a million times. This whole thing is a boondoggle, and it's really not making the U.S. government or President Donald J. Trump look good at all. So, I don't want to keep beating a dead horse, but Iran says that Israel's attacks on Lebanon over the weekend violate the ceasefire agreement, even though the United States and Iran have been launching bullets and rockets at each other for the past couple weeks, saying, no, it's all good, we're just defense. It's just defensive moves, So anyway, the country of Iran says, nope, we're not talking to you fools anymore. And then Donald J. Trump comes out and says, oh, he couldn't care less about what they said this morning. And then later on, hours later, he puts out one of his Truth Social things that says talks are continuing at a rapid pace. So again, like this is just propaganda warfare at this point. Not only are we farting around in the Middle East in a place for a reason that we have no business doing, for the reason, I understand the reasons. I just don't agree with them. I do not agree that choking off Iran is the only friggin' way to bring China to the table. Because that's not what it's about, is it? This is about, Trump came out publicly. This man has said publicly that when the Israel lobby or Adelson or anybody from the interest of Israel, they walk into his office every day, they're here every day, they come in every day, and do anything they want because he received untold amounts of money for his campaign. He essentially got them or the Jewish lobby essentially got Donald Trump elected under the, you bet there was an agreement about, if we put you back in here, you got to go after Iran and help us. And it has nothing to do necessarily with oil. We really do have to educate ourselves to what the Greater Israel Project is. This is why I refer to Netanyahu's actions as kind of Hitlerian. Not Chamberlain, the son of a bitch, Chris. Why do you suck so bad with your memory right now? Anyway, the big fat cigar smoking British, God, I can't believe that I don't remember his name right now. Anyway, there's people, on the side saying, just put up with Hitler. He's not going to do anything. He's not going to do anything. Meanwhile, you got this other big fat British guy saying, read his books, he's going to do it all. Anyway, so the appeasement is what happened under Hitler, and then he went into Poland. And so this is kind of a similar thing as what, like if you just kind of look at the similarities between the two, as America and some of the Gulf states are trying to appease Israel and Netanyahu. Meanwhile, his thing is not necessarily like the United States' thing is, hey, make sure that there's free trade in this waterway that there was already free trade in, and no nuclear weapons. Okay, fine, no nuclear weapons. But then it went from no nuclear weapons to no nuclear enrichment. What does that do? That says that Iran cannot provide abundant, nearly free energy to their country. If you don't allow them to enrich uranium, then they can't even have little mini nuclear reactors that power cities. And that's bunk. That's not a good deal. That's not a good deal for Iran. This is the place where medicine and mathematics came out of. We can't just we can't just deem it a desert hellscape. Yeah, I guess that the theocratic regime is really bad. It is, totally. We can't be doing that shit in 2026. But we also can't be saying that these and by the way, Iran is a fucking mountain. Anyway, but we can't sit here and say that these people are beneath us or under us, or they're not allowed to, blah. If you want to take out the religious leader, I guess do it. But as far as choking them off to slowly, it's not that you're going to put them back in the Stone Age. It's that today will be the Stone Age here in the near future. And so you're just relegating them to the technologies and the energy crises and costs of today. And then in the future, they're not going to be able to provide free, cheap energy or clean, cheap energy for their country. And that's a no-go. You can't do that. And so if the United States wants to, but that's a lot of pressure from the Israel lobby. The United States, Donald Trump has said since the 80s he doesn't want Iran to have a nuclear weapon. So I understand going after the weapons caches and, you know, nuclear enrichment facilities, I guess. But as far as like putting a complete halt on their ability to do that, that's where their line is. You know, it's like we've got a line, they've got a line, and nobody's willing to negotiate past that line. So, and the one common denominator that we have that keeps causing fucking problems is Netanyahu and Israel. I was watching footage of IDF troops just traipsing through southern Lebanon, moving up into Lebanon. They're going in, and they're going to cause a ruckus, and it's going to cause Iran to throw a fit. And at this point, you know, Donald Trump is, you know, he says a couple of things. He says two things, and he's been saying it for weeks, and we're exhausted with it. Just do something already. Leave. You know, like, fuck, dude, I don't want him to wipe anybody off the map, but if you know where these facilities are, underground or otherwise, just give it one last go, launch rockets, destroy buildings and mountainsides, and just fucking leave. But that's not going to happen because Iran or Israel is going to do something to entice an unbelievable reaction from Iran, and then that will just say, you know, and for the United States, you know, there's Israel in the corner. Oh shit, we don't have enough troops to do this. America, we need your help. And if you don't help us, we're going to expose your entire government for fraud and pedophilia. And then we're going to get into Iran. And that's how that's going to go. And I mean, it's just, we're screwed, man. We're Israel is a bad friend. Netanyahu is not an ally to the United States of America. I'm not saying that we can't have an ally in Israel. Israel needs different leaders, and we can't be having their fucking donors owning our politicians. But that's a talk for another day. So as far as Iran goes, we're here on June 1st. I've said multiple times if Donald Trump doesn't get this done in June, then he could be looking at a problem for the midterms. However, if this just kind of like quietly goes into a bit of a stalemate, and you can kind of like sweep little strikes, and you just basically like flared up another little conflict over there for people in the region to mull over and be pissed off about. We could ruin our relationship with the UAE. We could ruin our relationship with Saudis. We could ruin our relationship all over that area. Just because of going in and smacking the wasp's nest a little bit. This action is like us being a 12-year-old going up to the wasp nest and spraying it with a garden hose and running away. That's, you know, you're gonna get bit. You're gonna get bit. Anyway, so the propaganda BS just continues. So Iran says, we're not discussing anything with the United States if Israel doesn't stop doing what they're doing. Donald Trump says out one side of his mouth that he doesn't care, but then he now says on the other side of his mouth that talks are going on and they're continuing at a rapid pace. So, you know, we're still like fungi, kept in the dark and fed crap all day. This is another episode of TK2 on the Uniquely Unqualified channel on YouTube. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, y'all.